There it goes. Now it's working. Make sure that everything is good in terms of the audio will be okay. I may be a little bit quiet, but I think it'll be okay overall. Yep, we are definitely good to go. I don't know why that little background video is not so much wanting to cooperate, but it will be okay. Just making sure that all of the overlays and things work, and we will be on track to get started. Just waiting for the server reset, which should have just happened just now. And we are live with practice. We're going to go ahead and get hopped in. We will be on track to get started. Hold on 1 second, we'll try to get the cameras and everything. So started with free practice, and give me just a moment. We're going to hop out of the session and we are going to go hop out of the session real quick, and we are going to re-enter just for better cameras. So just give us just a moment. We will be right back into the server momentarily. All right, now we are back with free practice, and everything seems to be a-okay with the server, so we are good to go. Currently on board with XCLusive. We have 44 drivers registered tonight, and 25 teams across those 44 drivers. Here for the season opener of the XCLusive Esports Pro Series, an 8-round series, as we get a big slide from that green Mustang behind. I believe that was the number 80. That would be the NLR Esports Mustang of IFL Andom. But on board with XCLusive on an outlap here, ready to start the flying lap. Or actually, this should be a flying lap. Could be the first time on the board for practice. See what times we are looking at. Should see times around the 27s, 28s, 28.9 first time on the board for Luke. Diving over to the right-hand side of the track. We'll bow out and we will go on board with the 80 of the NLR Esports Green Mustang IFL Andom. Madam with MSA Autosport in the McLaren 720S GT3, top of the board at 28.6 in free practice. And that currently is the time to beat. Could see these times creep down. We are in optimum track condition, and we do have rain on the forecast. There is a good chance of rain coming in this session later on, either qualifying or the race. We are going to have this short 10-minute qualifier, 10-minute practice session, and then the 15-minute qualifying session, which is going to be very, very hectic with this many cars, this many drivers all on track at once. Down into 6 up on the curbs for Matt as we come into 7. This curb here, if it is wet, you are not going to want to use it at all. We'll push that car off to the outside of the track and give you a poor run through turns 7 and 8. And then into the penultimate corner. This is one section. It's very easy to overstep into those out of bounds off track limit areas. And taking that time back with a 1:28.3. Now the new time to beat, but we could very well see times, as long as we have a dry qualifying, could see times down into the 27s potentially. Out of turn 4, very easy to go wide off 2 tires into the sand at the left-hand side, driver left-hand side of the track. But while we have a little bit of time, also very easy to go wide there, the outside of 6 through 7 and 8. A lot of the curbs can be used, but those curbs can definitely unsettle the car if you get on them a little bit too much. Let's take a little bit of a look at our entry list. We should have just about everyone into the server now. 33 of our 40-something registered. I believe we have 44 or 45 drivers registered. Those drivers registered. 43 drivers. Kai, Irish, Patrick Saget, Ron Loco, Shumi, Tony Garona, Telecom, Zidane, Devitt, Fitted Manager, Krignet, Silth, Mel, Juvelainen, Madam, Lucas, El Bambino, OGFX1, Thron McCooney, Hope Blue, Ninja, Six Scarab, Berserk Legends, Thesaurus, Fast Fanatical, Clorpta, P. Karapech, or Karpachev, sorry, Fazzy Binks, Aiden, Cozy Learner, Marshall 88, Moss, MCR 420, Dank Emire, Ritz and Flitza, Radioactive, Nat, Uncleaner, Cross, Rathy, SRE Marcus, Skino, Andom, Mad Psycaster, Alex MG, and UGC Luke. Those 43 drivers across 25 teams, Euro Titans Esports, you may remember them from the 24-hour event that I have last broadcast. GRL Motorsport, MSA Autosport with 4 teams, MSA Autosport DT, MSA Autosport 1, 2, and 3, as we see some pit stop practice from Andom with NRL Esports. Hopping into the pit lane that was a little bit too fast, though, does kick you over into the pit spot immediately. 2 more laps left for those drivers just now coming across the line. Continuing on with our team list, NLR Esports Northern Lights Racing Team. Old Farts Racing Team making a return from the 24-hour event. Schwitzer Motorsport back with 3 teams. Sim Race Evo with 1 team. Super Speed Racing Team with 2 teams. Turtle Team Racing, Velocity Endurance Racing Team, XCL Racing, and XCLusive Esports with their 5 driver teams. Or their 5 teams: 787, 788, 789, 790, and 791. Looking to be a good season opener. You will start to see some of those team liveries as they may be getting some practice running together. Madam with a 28.2, currently in the pit lane, but does have the top time of the leaderboard. We do have a chance of rain. Currently cloudy. Rain is not out of the picture in a 90-minute race. 1 required stop, so you're getting an average of about 45 minutes on a set of tires. And pit strategy here will be extremely crucial. Undercut, overcut, all of those sorts of pit strategies can definitely be used to your advantage or to your dismay if you are a little bit off of that strategy. I have seen drivers stay out, go long, manage to stay at the front with those fresher tires. And as this practice session comes to a close, we have a few more drivers out on track getting their laps in. The number 13 of Ninja off at the final corner, back into the pit lane, shaking out a little bit of those jitters. Big slide from Luke coming out of the final corner there as well. They do have the number 91, which will be next across the line. That is going to be the Ferrari 296 of Tesaurus. Into the final corner, looking to find some improvement. Has not set a valid lap yet, but across the line should be one here, and it is the 777 next across the line of El Bambino in that Mustang. Quite a few Mustangs here tonight. Quite a few McLarens as well across the line. And that is going to bring it into the qualifying, or into the practice session. And for qualifying, we have some damp conditions as everyone scrambles out of the pit lane trying to find that optimum track position. Who gets out front is going to be the purple number 66 McLaren 720S GT3 out of the pit lane first. It's a short qualifying session, and it is partly cloudy. The track is currently damp. So I don't know exactly how much track position is going to help the car too much as we go back on board with our leader, the 66 diving into the pit lane. MCR 420 at the front, or was at the front, is actually allowing the McLaren, the number 17 McLaren, the McLaren of Hope Blue, who actually has the 442 alongside, but I think they're going door to door here very early days in this qualifying session. The track is currently damp. We will see this track rapidly improve as we will go from damp conditions to dry conditions. At least we should. We do have a little bit of sunlight poking through the clouds off of this fresh rain. A lot of McLarens, a lot of mid-engine here at the start of this qualifying session through the penultimate corner and eventually the final corner. It is going to be wide and onto the paint. That is going to cause that McLaren to go around, and that will mean that it is once again going to be the number 17 of Hope Blue, but invalid on that lap, and I think may be coming in. If they weren't out on slicks already, they're coming out on slicks now. And some may have gone out on wets thinking the track was going to be wet for a little bit longer. Race control was saying that the wet tires were optimum whenever they were in the pit lane at the beginning of this qualifying session, but now that we have gone to greasy conditions as this track is starting to dry up, slicks are going to be the better option. Because I don't really know. Everyone should be getting started on an out lap now, but still yet to have any times up on the board. 2.5 minutes into this qualifying session as we do see that dry line start to develop through turn 4. And everyone will be fighting for that dry line. There is not going to be much side-by-side argy-bargy in this qualifying session until we get some drier track conditions. As of right now, those curbs are going to be a little treacherous. So we do have the 80 of Andom going up onto those curbs. Not going to be all of the grip that you would usually want to find there. And down into the penultimate corner for Andom. This may be a flying lap, could just be another out lap, but it may be a flying lap. We'll see when he comes across the line. And it is a flying lap at 32.2, very far off of those times that we saw with optimum racing conditions, but we are not going to get optimum track in this qualifying session. It's going to be the best that you have, but one kicker with this qualifying, the better laps are going to come later on in the session. We do have quite a few cars to drive this track with just the residual heat from the tires, but these lap times are going to drop rapidly as this track starts to develop in the positive. Currently declared greasy. We should have green, fully dry track, at least close to fully dry by the time we get to the end of this 15-minute session. Juvelainen with a 31.9, the only driver into the 31s with these current track conditions, but I think by the time we get to the end of this qualifying, we should have times closer to those down in the 29s to 30s. Granted, we get a dry enough track. Corpt now up at the top in that BMW. 31.8 now the time to beat. And is going to get a little bit of slipstream help from the 999 Aston Martin directly in front. 31.1 as those times are beginning to drop very rapidly. Andom with a big improvement on their previous lap. Now once again on the pole position, and Rathy in the Ferrari immediately dropping a time only a 1/10.5 slower, as we are going to quickly see these times start to drop. Juvelainen now with a 31.00 as we are going to be into the 30s very shortly. Nat JB only 0.06 of a second behind. And now that everyone's starting to get a little bit comfortable, this track is starting to develop, I would say better, but the 66 and I believe the 777, the 66 and the 777 had an incident at turn number 1. Currently, Juvelainen at the top of the timing board, 31.005, the time to beat, set by that number 71 McLaren 720S, coming through turn 5 now. Still a large chunk of the field yet to set a qualifying lap. almost halfway through this qualifying session, and we should see some drivers coming back into the pit lane. 30.4 from Andem. And I don't think Andem has gone into the pits yet. Still running on the same set of tires, same fuel load. Just running as this track begins to develop more and more. 30.2 for Juvelainen now. As I think we will be into the 29s very shortly. Abandoning the lap for Juvelainen though, around the wrong way at turn number 1, but a 30.2 now the time to beat. Once again on pole position. Is Andem going to be able to fight this pole position fight back? Zidane into P2, 2/10 of a second slower than that time of Juvelainen. Mel up into P3, Andem down to P4. Is Andem on a fast enough lap here to take that pole position back, or is it going to be a pit lane practice entry to get some fresh tires and fuel in that Mustang? It's not into the pit lane, going for another lap. Will it be enough for pole position? So we'll see if this green Mustang brings it once again. Yes, first time into the 29s, and now it is going to pull over to the side, back into the pit lane, put fresh tires and fuel on that Mustang, and try again once more. Zidane, P3 in the Lamborghini, also looking to improve on those lap times. Tony Garona with the MSA McLaren, not into the 29s yet, but the fastest car still in that 30-second range. As the track is now fast, we may have this track develop into optimum track conditions right at the very, very end of this qualifying session. A 29.6 from Skino in the Mercedes. One of the few Mercedes running today, but a very respectable time. 29.6 from the 696 Mercedes piloted by Skino. As this season goes on, there is both the Drivers' Championship, but there is a Team Championship and Team Points. So as this season goes on, just keep your eye out on what teams are getting those pole positions, what teams are getting those podium positions. As you could start to find that some teams may not necessarily be winning every race, but two teammates close enough together in points to bring together a good result for the championship. We'll just have to see how this first round goes. 29.5 from Tony Garona in the McLaren. Diving to the right-hand side of the track. Is it going to be an improvement for Skino? Just needs a 10th to improve and take that pole position back. It is a 29.3 for Skino. With 5 minutes left in this qualifying session, we may get a lap or two with optimum conditions. Have gone from damp to greasy to green to fast. And we are very rapidly improving this track here. Could be the amount of traffic causing this rapid improvement. Also the track temperature, not necessarily cold by any means, and the sun is out. Rapid drying here in Austria after that quick shower. But a dry qualifying doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a dry race. And whoever may have the fastest time in the dry may not be the fastest driver in the wet. And any sort of changing weather conditions that we have during the race are definitely going to play into any sort of pit strategy that you may be trying to come up with. Skino still on pole, Tony Garona P2, Zidane P3. Andem in the Mustang was once on pole, down to P9, looking to try and improve, take that pole position back. Nat JB with a 29.0, now the time to beat from that Ferrari 296 with Turtle Team Racing. Skino back on pole position, a 28.8, the first driver into the 28.8s and diving to the right-hand side as it is a full track. If you are into the pit lane now, you're going to be watching that mini-map trying to find a hole. You don't want to come out in traffic, especially if you're going to go for a final attempt at a qualifying lap at the very end of this session. Bambino, Schwitzer Motorsport up into P3. Matt M, MSA Autosport Team 3 in the McLaren at 28.7. Still no optimum conditions and 3 minutes left in this qualifying session. 2 laps to go. If you have just completed the lap, you'll get this lap and 1 more. If you're crossing the line, you'll still get this lap and 1 more. Right at 1.5 minutes, 3 minutes gets you 2 laps. As everyone on track should get at least 1 more lap to try to improve. And I have a feeling with the delta on the times going all the way down the field, the top 20 separated by just a second, this qualifying session is definitely going to come down to the last lap. Whoever is on track last is going to have the best chance at taking that pole position away. Matt M with the hard job of defending the pole position. 28.7, the time to beat, allowing the Mustang to go by. Matt JB going just 200ths, 22 thousandths of a second slower. Skino 49 thousandths of a second slower. Radioactive 119 thousandths of a second slower. Matt M will get this lap and 1 more. As for the next 10 seconds, everyone coming across the line will have an opportunity of 1 more extra lap. So this lap that they have just started and 1 more after the timer has come down to 0. Ando with 28.7 back on pole position. We'll have a couple laps to try to improve. Hope Blue just crossing the line will be on their final lap, 28.6. Definitely going to need to bring some insurance as they will not have another lap to try to improve. 28.6 the time to beat, but needs to improve on this lap to try and build any sort of buffer as they are going to have much less time to defend this pole position than the rest of those drivers further ahead. Andem back into P2, Telecom into P3 in the Ferrari. Matt M down to P4. Does have the Mustang up ahead, that Mustang that they let through coming through turn 7 and 8. May get a little bit of slipstream help from them. Mustang being a very, very quick straight line car. Hope Blue with the job to defend pole position as we come down to the very end of this qualifying session. This quali will come to 0. The clock will hit 0 before Hope Blue makes it back to the line. Hope Blue currently with 28.6 on pole. No longer on pole. Matt M with a 28.4. It's down to Hope Blue to try to improve. If Hope Blue wants any chance of holding on to this pole position, it's got to be right here. It's got to be an improvement by at least 1/4 of a second. Is it going to be so? It is not. Slight improvement, but Matt M currently on pole and does have this lap to try and buy some insurance. Silth up into P3. Matt M had to abandon the lap, will not improve. Silth P4. Qualifying is done. Telecom 28.3, top of the board on pole position. Matt M do no better than P2. Andem 5th. One of those drivers that we have seen fighting for the pole position. Currently P5 does have an opportunity to improve. The 42 across the line. And where is that 42 at? The 42. The 8. 42, P3, Nat JB. The 8, P15, Ritzenflitze. Rathy, P6, or number 6, up to P4. The 442 across the line. It's an improvement. MCR P16. Telecom still on pole, the 28.3, a big slide through the final corner from Andem. Across the line next not going to be an improvement. Telecom on pole position with Sim Race Evo, Matt M P2, Nat JB P3, Rathy P4, Hope Blue P5, Sylth P6, Irish P7, Andem P8, Juvelinen P9, Tony Garona P10, Skino P11, Aiden P12, Radioactive P13, Mel P14, L Bambino P15, Clorpt P16, MCR 420, MCR P17, Ritzenflitza P18, Shumi P19, Fazzy Binks P20, OG FX1 P21, Krieg Mitt P22, UGC Luke P23, Kai P24, Ron Loco P25, Alex MG P26, Uncleaner Cross P27, Ninja P28, Mad Psycaster P29, Zidane 9, Devitt P30. Get right back down there to it. P. Karpachev P31, Berserk Legends P32, Thron McCooney P33, and O. Tesaurus P34. A cloudy race start, but no rain on the forecast currently as this grid is set to get this season started. Round 1, the season opener of the XCLusive Esports Pro Series, as we look to crown a champion among the best, the top 40 plus of the XCL membership. This is going to be the defining season to see who is the best amongst the best. They don't call this the Pro Series for nothing. This is going to be an absolute brawl between the top talent with XCL. Do have a few of the XCLusive Esports drivers themselves, but it is Sim Race Evo with Telecom on pole position in a Ferrari, and it is a lot of Ferrari populating the top 20, taking up over a fifth of the top 26 of the top 20 being Ferraris, and another 6 being McLaren. Actually, another 7 being McLaren. So mid-engine definitely has the advantage here, it seems, at least in terms of pace. Currently no rain on the forecast, but there is a chance of rain. 90-minute race, one scheduled, one required pit stop, and we will see pit strategy here, especially fighting for the lead. If we have a battle between two drivers at the front, the fight for that lead could come down to pit strategy alone. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If it's your first time tuning in to one of my streams, if you wouldn't mind hitting that follow button on Twitch. Same thing with my YouTube channel. All of the streams are dual streamed and saved onto my YouTube channel. If you wouldn't mind subscribing, and if you would like to support the streams, you can do so with a Twitch Prime subscription, which is free with an Amazon Prime account, or a Twitch subscription, which I think is $5 or $6 a month. We are engines fired as Telecom gets ready to lead this field. As we get ready for this formation lap, Telecom in front of the Ferrari of Nat JB, and it was an absolute slugfest at the front of the field. And how are we going to go from here? Dumping the clutch and off the line is Telecom. As we are now started with this formation lap, the track is going to be slightly cooler. Is not cooler in terms of track temperature and ambient temperature, but in terms of the lack of sunlight. If we do get any rain, even just a quick shower, it will be enough to kick us over to wet and damp, and it may stay that way for a while. We could also see the sun come out and rapidly warm this track. Don't see too much weaving, too much dragging of the brakes yet. We should see some as those drivers start to warm up those tires, warm up those brakes, try to get whatever temperature they can and bring these cars up to as close to prime operating condition as possible by the time we get back to the start-finish line. But an absolute stoic drive from turns 3 to turn 4. Looking a bit like Kimi Räikkönen out there. I don't need to cool, or I don't need to warm my tires. I don't need to warm my brakes. I'll just drive straight on. As we see a lot of weaving through the field behind. And Telecom to lead the field to the line. Telecom will not have the inside at turn number 1. As that's going to be a crucial spot to watch out for. Telecom needs to make sure that this start is as good as possible. Any lagging on the start, any missing the jump, or just a poor start or a poor line will immediately put him under fire from Nat JB, from Matt M, anyone around, because track position early is going to be a big factor, especially with this large of a field. Also incidents. Hopefully there are no racing incidents at the beginning of this first lap, especially at the first turn. Also, car number 269, Fazzy Binks, starting in the pit lane. Coming into the final corner, Telecom will lead the field to the line as we get ready to go green flag for the first time. The season opener here of the XCLusive Esports Pro Series. And Telecom on the outside, Matt M on the inside. As those red lights will turn green, and we will take the green flag. Green, green, green. We are racing in the XCLusive Esports Pro Series. Round 1, the season opener here at Red Bull Ring. And everyone trying to make their way through. It does seem to be everyone's wide, and there is a big incident at the back of the field. Everyone trying to avoid those cars behind. I see the 66 involved. We have had a few involvements in that incident. Telecom still in the lead, and actually I believe it broke out nicely from the rest of the field. Fazzy Binks starting from the pit lane. Maybe that was a bit of a strategy call to avoid any sort of incident at the beginning of the race. But some early casualties. I don't think they have all too much damage on those cars. The BMW coming through of Mel does have some damage on the front. And we do see the 442 of MCR 420 into the pit lane. Telecom leads into the penultimate corner. And any incidents during the race will be reported in race control. We'll have a look at them post-race. All results at the end of the race are unofficial until the official announcement and standings have been posted. Telecom leads the first lap with Matt M in tow, but we have a group of cars all separated by about a quarter of a second delta. The front of the field trying to break away the best that they can. But we have quite the dense grid from, I believe, P4 all the way down to the number 8, all the way down to P17. There does seem to be a slight margin opening. Ron Loco in the gold Mustang getting a little bit caught out as UGC Luke in the super sweet Ferrari goes through. And Telecom currently putting on a masterclass, building a gap to Matt M very, very quickly, but also maybe running a little bit too hard, 2 tires in the sand, and definitely pushing hard missing that racing line, and that is going to allow Matt M and Nat JB to close this gap quickly. As the beginning of the race, nerves are a big factor. And Telecom sitting on that pole position, I think trying to push a little bit too hard to try and get away from those cars behind. That gap has definitely dropped 6/10 between the last timing line. Sylph with the fastest lap of the race currently. And Irish and Andom, the sister Mustangs, having a little bit of a scrap coming out of turn number 1 up through the kink of 2 and into the hard braking right-hander of 3. Does Andom go for the move? Does not, is not close enough. But I think Irish got a poor exit, and Andom will pull alongside. They will be door-to-door when they come down to turn 4. Turn 4 going to be one of the prime overtaking opportunities, as you can take advantage of a poor run from the car that you are chasing and pull to the inside, force them to try the long way around at turn 4, and it is almost impossible. Good move from Andom there for P7. The gap between Telecom and Matt is holding. Matt has the pressure from the 3 Ferraris. You could honestly call them the 3 Musketeers coming up behind, as they are all putting pressure on that McLaren of Matt M. 3 Ferraris all running together, but neither of them on the same team. Turtle Team Racing, Euro Titans Esports, and MSA Autosport Team 2. All 3 together, but all Ferraris, as Telecom is able to pull away from the field at least slightly. I think that was the Turtle Team Ferrari of Nat JB went wide, as I think we may go on board with Sylph watching this battle up ahead. Coming into turn 3, Sylph very late on the brakes, had to avoid going to the outside. And those 3 battling up ahead, definitely going to open the door for Sylph to try and find a way through. Going back a little ways behind, we do have a battle here between the McLaren of Juvelainen and the Mustang of Irish, who has now fallen back behind the green Mustang of Andom. As they come through turns 5 and 6, that McLaren definitely trying to put the pressure onto that Mustang. Telecom still opening that gap to the cars behind, as Matt M has a little bit of that pressure relieved, as Nat JB is now under attack from the Ferrari of Rathi. Everyone slotting into their positions. There is not a race to be won at the very beginning, as we've definitely got a gap grown from Kai in the Schwitzer Motorsport Mustang to OG FX1, running in a little bit of no man's land, but 4 wide for just a moment as they make contact. The 789 BMW of Klorpt making contact with the number 8 of Ritzenflitze. And they were 4 wide, trying to fit too many cars into too small of a space. Klorpt will lose some positions, but they are still battling all of these cars all together. Ron Loco, UGC Luke, Thrawn McCooney, I think we'll go and hop on board with Alex MG and watch all of the chaos from behind. On board the Aston Martin as they come into turn 4, the McLaren seemingly eyeing a move of the inside into turn 4, but the Mustang is going side by side up ahead. Definitely going to be slower than the optimal racing line. That does allow the Ferrari of UGC Luke to try and find a way to close up to the cars up ahead. We were many cars in a very small space for just a moment there. M now falling backwards once again into the clutches of the Ferraris. But Rathi and Nat JB still going at it. Rathy going very wide at turn 1. That will open up the gap between Nat JB and Rathy and allow Nat to put some pressure onto the McLaren of Matt M. And Telecom, I believe, still making some slight mistakes, not really growing that gap as these drivers are battling behind. That gap kind of bouncing between the 2 second to 1.5 second margin. And I think Telecom may be pushing that Ferrari just a little bit too hard. Going back down to the hectic battles for position, I think they have started to sort it out. Radioactive in the McLaren with 2 of the Switzer Motorsport Mustangs, giving chase behind. As we are only 10 minutes into this race, and it has been absolutely hectic, and rain on the horizon, rain within the next 30 minutes. That will be close to the pit stop time, at least to the scheduled pit stop time. Matt JB now definitely applying pressure to the McLaren of Matt M, and Matt M gets a poor exit of turn 1 as they are going to be side by side. This is a battle for P2. I think the McLaren has the track position to hold on to it. Will go defensive into turn 3. And they are side by side on the brakes. The McLaren up the inside, but I believe the Ferrari of Nat JB will get the old switcheroo. Not quite close enough and was not far enough ahead to push and force the McLaren to go to the outside. But it may be a late braking move into 4. It is not. Feigning the move, but ultimately not going to stick. Skino now battling Irish with the McLaren of Juvelainen in tow. And the number 414 of Tony Garona had an off track at turn 1, and there is some damage on the front of that McLaren. Klorpt came into the pit lane, is clear of the stop, so is going to be on a fresher tire strategy, fresher tires and fuel, but I don't think that rain in the forecast is really going to play into Klorpt's hands too well. As with this cloud cover, any rain we get will kick us over to slick optimum, or a wet optimum, for at least a short amount of time. Nat JB still trying to find a way past the McLaren, but the longer they fight, the closer and closer those drivers behind will get. We have already added 2 more friends to this tea party. Hope Blue and Andom are now queuing up behind. Rathy very, very defensive into turn 3, and Silth tried to find a way past, but they are going to be side by side into turn 4. And this is not going to be what Hope Blue or Rathy are really going to want, but they are fighting for position early. Side by side into turn 4. I believe actually I don't think there was any contact, but they were very, very close to doing so. Still side by side, door to door as they come through 5 and 6. As Rathy finally gets that Ferrari back ahead of Silth. And just up ahead, Nat JB and Matt M still battling. And if they continue to battle, it will just accordion everyone else behind right back up, and no one really loses any time. But we are now starting to see that margin between Telecom and Matt begin to develop. Almost 4 seconds now, and Telecom just needs those drivers behind to continue battling. Remember, that rain is on the horizon. It will rain within the next 30 minutes. Andom looking on the inside of Hope Blue as they make contact. Andom was able to regain control, but Hope Blue hard into the wall, and it's definitely going to lose a few positions. Will slot in back behind the Switzer Motorsport Mustang of Kai. But that takes Hope Blue out of that fight, and they are still fighting for position behind. And once again, any incidents on track will be reported. Race control will take a look at them post-race, and any penalties or incident points that need to be applied will be applied accordingly and will affect the race results. So all race results are unofficial until race control makes the official standings announcement. Matt M. very defensive against Nat JB, who definitely seems to be on the front foot. That Ferrari desperately trying to find a way past the McLaren as they come into the penultimate corner. Not really a prime overtaking opportunity, as Nat will just have to follow behind, but a good run out of the final corner may be what he needed. Matt defensive to the inside forces the Ferrari of Nat to the outside, and once again door-to-door racing. Will Nat get the switcheroo through one? Yes, he does. Silth will try to follow, but will not be able to. Now, is Nat JB unleashed to try and hunt down the Ferrari of Telecom? Still holds the fastest lap of the race, which means that he is definitely deserving of his position. Silth now goes past the McLaren of Matt, who has now dropped back a few positions. Juvelainen onto the back of Irish as this lead pack is really starting to grow. Skino past Andem, trying to hunt down Rathy. Skino and Andem having a door-to-door fight through 5 and 6. And Andem getting a great run out of 6, but with that narrow section of track, really nowhere to take that momentum. And deep into 8 goes Skino in the Mercedes. Also the 155 of Karpachev, who is, I believe, running the M6 GT3. That's a bit of a different choice, and also the Lexus of Berserk Legends directly ahead. Telecom just on a nice weekend drive up at the front of the field. The gap now 5.5 seconds, but it is all but a peaceful drive for those drivers just behind. Nat JB and Silth found a way past the 4th place now McLaren of Matt M. And they will now try to hunt down the leading Ferrari of Telecom. Hope Blue in that McLaren. Well, I believe I saw Hope Blue, but where has Hope Blue gone? The number 17 McLaren was into the pit lane, came out involved in more incident, and back into the pit lane. Unfortunate. And that is going to be onto the trailer for Hope Blue in the McLaren. Their race is done for today. They have decided to park the car. MCR 420 still in the pit lane, as I believe they may also be parking the car for the day. But Telecom putting on the masterclass, started on pole position, really expressing the emphasis of track position here at the Red Bull Ring. Putting in work to hold on to the lead for those first crucial laps. Also the 420 of Mad Sycaster in the Porsche around at turn 8. Does eventually rejoin the track, but more incidents for Mad Sycaster. That is not going to be the race that they were hoping to have. Alex MG, Mill, Ninja, they are all here racing together. Too much curb for the Aston Martin, and I don't think that Mel, actually, is that Mel in that BMW? Who is that in that purple car? That's a 789 of Klorpt, who is on a separate lap. Not too happy with the racing etiquette there, coming out of turn 1, trying to claw this race back on a different strategy, as they are definitely fighting for position here. 3 wide almost Aiden, the number 66 McLaren, into the pit lane. Fazzy Binks, the 269 Ferrari. Very, very quick driver, but damage on the front, I believe, involved in some of that early race incident, trying to regain those positions. Telecom still in the lead. Matt JB still in P2. Silth, Matt M, Rathy, and Skino. Actually, that gap has grown a little bit. Skino and Andom in battle once again. As Andom goes up the inside at turn 3, Skino will try it around the outside, and they'll do this side by side through turns 4, 5, and 6, song and dance again. This is a hard-fought battle for what is currently P6. We are almost 20 minutes into this race. Still side by side. They'll try it around 6. Is that Mustang going to have any room? Yes, it will. They are continuing on side by side. Will they hold it through turn 7? No. Skino out up ahead. And Irish brought back into this fight. But these front engine monsters have all decided that they would like to race very hard together, and I believe that we are all here for it. They have had a great battle. I don't know how you managed to stay side by side through those 3 corners, but they managed to do it. They continue racing. Let's actually go on board with the Mustang of Irish. Get some of that Ford V8 sound as we head up the hill and into the braking zone. Skino goes deep. Will that open the door for Andom? Not quite, I don't think. Andom still trying to find a way through. Let's go on board with Rathy, following all of the mid-engine crew at the front of the field. The top 5 currently all mid-engine. The top 4 of the top 5 all Ferraris. Seems to be a battle between Luke and OGFX. Luke trying to get it stuck on the inside and has pulled through, racing between teammates. The Ferrari of UGC Luke and the BMW of OGFX, both on the Super Swede racing team. Silth still chasing Nat as Matt is actually dropping down a few positions. Rathy trying to reel in Matt and make it an all-Ferrari top 4. But Matt has got to open that door for Rathy to walk through. Otherwise, Matt is perfectly fine staying P4 and locking Rathy out behind. Battles all the way up and down the grid, all the way around the track, between all sorts of positions, but the battle for the lead is no contest at current. There is rain on the horizon, I believe, within the next 15 minutes, and it is going to be heavy rain, and it seems to be rain lasting quite a while. I think it was around 15 minutes ago that we saw that rain pop up on the forecast, and I think it's going to be pits for wets and staying on wets. One set of wets should last the rest of the race. Granted, it does rain for the remainder of the race. If it does not rain for the remainder of the race, those wet tires are quickly going to deteriorate in performance, And we may see some 2 stops today on scheduled pit stops. Rathy still trying to find a way past the McLaren of Matt M, and this opportunity may come down the run between 3 and 4. But Rathy just slotting behind, has not felt comfortable enough to go for the move. Skino in the Mercedes now past the battling Mustangs of Irish and Andom. And I believe Skino is going to try and close up that 3-second gap between himself and the battling Ferraris and McLarens up ahead. Rathy with Matt still very defensive as they come into the penultimate corner. Rathy is, I believe, getting a little bit impatient with this move, ready to find a way past. And if Rathy has a good run out of the final corner, may have an opportunity at turn number 1. But will not get that opportunity. Turn 1, turn 3, and turn 4, the prime overtaking opportunities here at the Red Bull Ring. But if you are unable to really make it stick through there or to close the gap, by the time you get to those crucial overtaking opportunities, getting this move done is going to be very, very difficult. Nat JB pulling a slight gap to Silth behind. Silth outside of Slipstream, as we may start to see a no man's land situation beginning at the front of the field. Andom and Irish still battling. These sister Mustangs may be battling this entire race. Kai running behind Bambino, the sister Schwitzer cars. The battle for position between Ninja and Alex MG and the Aston Martin. This battle just continuing to go on, and Klorpt in that purple BMW on a different pit strategy, trying to claw back this race after being involved in some early contact, I believe. The sister Schwitzers racing into turn 1. And the longer they race, you may start to think, you know, they probably have communications with each other, but how long does team relations hold up in terms of racing, as they are going to be door to door coming through the kink of 2 uphill? I think that was some team orders there, as the 23 of Kai slots in ahead of the 777 of Bambino. Bit of an odd place for the brakes, so I would say that may have been some team orders to allow the faster car by. Rathy, the gap to Matt M and the McLaren ahead has opened up a little bit. Skino has taken half a second out of that gap between himself and Rathy, trying to find a way to close up onto this battle for the lead at the front of the field. And rain within the next 10 minutes, rain continuing on after that, and it is going to be heavier rain, so we will have a rapid development in track conditions very shortly. And this is going to come at a time just slightly before the scheduled halfway point, where you would see a lot of the field come into the pit lane. Just 45 minutes on one set of tires, 45 minutes on another. We're now going to be going on to slicks. Some drivers may try to hang it out for a short amount of time and let these slick tires last a little bit longer. They will last a lap or so with rain, but when that heavy rain starts, you need to be on wet tires. Not a huge gamble here, as the lap is relatively short compared to many of the other tracks on the calendar. So if you do stay out just a minute and a half back around the track, granted the track is in good enough condition for you to bring the car back around without going around yourself. So we should see at least some, I would say, incentivizers or innovators early in the pit. Silth with some mistakes coming through the final two corners. Wide exit of the penultimate corner and a clattering over the curbs at the final corner. There is a sausage curb on the inside of that final corner that can upset the car if you hit it wrong, and I believe that's exactly what happened to Silth there. Krigmit in another MSA Autosport Ferrari, trying to find a way past the Mustang of El Bambino, who just let the teammate of Kai go by a couple laps prior. As Krigmit will try and find a way past this Mustang. Juvalainen running behind the P13, number 51 Ferrari of XCLusive. An uncleaner cross with Thrawn, McCooney, and Mel in tow just behind, but this big group of cars, Karpachev in that M6 GT3 at the very front, trying to pull away from the rest of the field behind, and I think they may have split up a little bit. But Berserk Legends with Ritzenflitze, they are battling, and Klorp trying to find a way through. Klorp with no real way to get past. The side-by-side run through 5 and 6 is just got to be absolutely nerve-wracking. Sand trap on either side and some understeer from Ritzenflitze. Losing the front will drop out of that battle, drop down a few positions. Rain within the next 10 minutes. Telecom, the gap holding, not necessarily gaining, as Nat is able to pull a gap away from Silth behind. There is currently a good running for the MSA Autosport crew with all of their cars. But rain coming very shortly. And that is definitely going to be a wrench in this race. We'll start out with light rain, but it will quickly develop into heavy rain, and for the past 10 minutes or so, that 30-minute forecast has not changed. That rain is going to stay. We will be wet in Austria, as we will have rain very shortly. When do you come in? When do you go on slicks? When do you find a way through this fight? Bambino with Krigmit, XCLusive, and Juvalainen all trying to find a way through. They're going to go 3 wide down the straight as they come into turn 1. Juvalainen is up on the inside of Luke. How do they fare through there? Almost making contact. They're just going to run door to door up the hill to turn 3. Juvalainen does have a nose on Luke. Luke knows that, does have to leave the space open, and Juvalainen will go late on the brakes, try and find a way through. Will Luke get the old switcheroo? Will not, will just slop behind, and I think Juvalainen may be on the front foot trying to find a way past the cars ahead. Krigmit still trying to find a way past El Bambino. And pulling up onto the back of Skino, as Skino is closing up very rapidly to the Ferrari of Radhi. Those tires may be showing their age, though, especially if they've been abused on the front, depending on the setup. Who comes in first for slicks, as they may be a key innovator and may definitely play the perfect strategy? Or do you try and hang it out as long as you can on slicks? Who comes in for wets? Who stays out on slicks? Rain coming momentarily. As I believe when you come in for slicks, or not come in for slicks, when you come in to take slicks off, when you come in for wets, you're going to take your fuel. Do you treat it as your pit stop? You see currently, you can't see the forecast to the end, but you're talking with your team. We see rain, and actually it's now rain increasing, as it's going to be very heavy rain by the time we get to, I say that would be right around 26 minutes left in this race. It's looking at the time being to be rain here to the end. You go ahead and put fuel, just enough fuel in to run from here to the end of the race, and do you plan on staying on those wet tires until the very end? It is now rain any moment. As we await the first drops, the rain is going to be here. Telecom, how does Telecom respond to this weather? As Telecom in the driver's seat, but does not want to get caught out. Nat JB is definitely holding. Still no one able to best Telecom in terms of that fastest lap of the race. But Nat JB not really allowing that gap to Telecom to really grow. Has been at 5.9 to 5.8 seconds for quite some time now. And with this weather development, do you come in early? Do you try and stay in late? Do you just need to cover off what the car behind you does? As we should see our first drops, wipers start rolling very shortly. I think we may even have lights come on. Side by side, Juvelainen now trying to make it past Bambino. As Bambino, they make contact. Bambino almost held on to it, but the snap took him around, and it is now raining. Who will come into the pits first? How long do you stay out? Wipers are rolling. Do we have any takers early? Everyone's staying out for now. But this track will quickly begin to deteriorate. It takes a while for the rain to really saturate the track. The number 4, Irish, into the pit lane, will be the first taker on a scheduled pit stop and will come in, put tires, wet tires and fuel in that Mustang. Who else coming in? The 71 of Juvelainen was in that race. Also, the 777 of Bambino. Track now greasy. Is Telecom holding up nice? Is on slicks. Wet tires not optimum yet, but they will be shortly. The number 41. Who is that? That is Matt M., the number 41 McLaren of Matt M., around at turn 3 and was racing at the front of the field. Has now dropped down a few positions, down to P8. Unfortunate for Matt. Telecom likely to come in here. Is Telecom going to stay out, though? Is it into the pit lane? It is not. Telecom staying out, taking the risk. Nat JB, is Nat JB going to come in? Nat JB is staying out. I think Nat is going to follow whatever Telecom does. And Silth currently doing the same. Skino and Andam all staying out. No reason to come into the pit lane yet. In the pit lane, Juvelainen, Bambino rolling out. Alex MG in the pit lane. Ritzenflitze in the pit lane. Tesaurus Aiden not currently in the pit lane. Clorpta back in the pit lane, and MCR 420 still in the pit lane. The rain has not really increased in its intensity yet, but it will increase shortly. Nat JB. The gap has now grown. It's actually 7 seconds, the gap now. Sylph P3, Rathy P4, and Skino has actually been overtaken by Andom just now. But what has happened to Andom? I think we may have just had some issues. As we have had very many drivers leaving. And I think we may be going red flag here. We'll have to wait and see. If race control comes in and lets me know anything, I will relay that. And we will continue on. Could be a red flag restart, as we don't want to have the majority of the field get knocked out whenever it starts raining. But I am sure that we will, as I have now been locked out, as we will go red flag momentarily. And just hold on a moment. As we get everything sorted out, but currently under red flag, I believe. Could just be server issues, but we will try and make sure that everything is all right for now, as I believe the server has been reset. So we are currently under red flag conditions. And we will try to get everything sorted out. So just hang tight for the moment. As we are currently under red flag conditions, we will be restarting the session, I believe. We'll just have to wait for the official word from race control, and we will go from there. Well, I did have the red flag overlay from the 24-hour and decided, well, I might as well just reuse that. And sure enough, here we are using it. Taking a little bit of a refreshment break. You drivers should do the same. Drivers or viewers, whatever you are doing, just make sure that you stay hydrated, especially during these races. So we will just hang tight for the time being and wait for the official word from the race control. So we will just stay where we are for now and just await the word from race control, but we will be back racing shortly. It's not very often that you get to use the red flag overlay. Everyone is given some time to maybe think about changes that need to be made. Think about the line. As this is going to be a full restart, we will resume the session with the amount of time that we had left. But we will be resetting the field, and it will be another rolling start. So we will have a server reset, 50 minutes left. And we will get the grid reset. Race control does need some time to confirm the positions of the drivers pre-reset. So from then on, we should be able to continue racing. Cannot guarantee the same weather conditions, but for the time being, that is what we know. We will just await the server reset. But yes, currently red flag. Well, if you are here, if you wouldn't mind hitting that follow button, and if you would like to join my personal Discord for keeping up with all things on my commentating journey, I am trying to become a real-life motorsport commentator, and this is the media in which I am doing so, or at least getting my practice. So if you would like to follow the journey, please join the Discord. You can also get linked with all of the leagues that I am affiliated with, XCL included, and keep up with all things broadcasting. If you yourself are interested in becoming a broadcaster, you can join there. There are some resources there and some other broadcasters that you can communicate with. It can also help you find a gig for broadcasting if you would like to be if you would like to get started with broadcasting. So it will be race restart, 50 minutes remaining, and there will still be the mandatory pit stop. Not everyone had made their mandatory pit stop at that time, so it will be a 50-minute race, mandatory one stop, which is going to refresh the strategy for everyone, but the grid will be set. So there will not be another qualifying session. There may be a practice session just to give everyone enough time to rejoin the server. But until then, we will just wait for the server to be reset, the field to join up, and we will resume coverage shortly. So there are, I believe, some drivers that are going to get a little bit of a saving grace. As when that rain came, there was some drivers that lost their times, maybe lost their footing a little bit. The reset will come from the 1 hour mark. So it will be a 50-minute race, but they will pull the most relevant time, or the most relevant positions from that 50-minute mark. And we will continue on from there. Still just awaiting server reset. As soon as that happens, we will be hopping back in and resuming coverage of the season opener of the XCLusive Esports Pro Series Championship. Still awaiting the server reset, but should come momentarily. And with this restart, it is going to be a bit of a breath of fresh air. It is going to close the field up, and we still have the one pit stop, so we still have all of the variables, still have the variable of weather as well. As also, although it may not be raining, it was not looking to be very optimum conditions by the time we got to the end of the race. It looked like it was going to be heavy rain till the very end, and the rain was just intensifying and intensifying. We never saw an end to it, so I believe we may have been wet track or at least damp or greasy track until the very end of the race. But once again, thank you for those who have tuned in. Thank you for watching the stream later on, even though if you are watching the stream at a later date, you will probably be skipping through this part with the red flag. But still, regardless, thank you all for tuning in, as we hope to be racing here shortly. Alright, and the server should be restarted. The server is restarted. And we will go ahead and get into the server now. As we have a short practice session before getting started once again. But we should have everyone joining in. And it will now just be a short wait until we get back onto the grid. We will have some short takers to go and just stay warmed up, get another lap in or so. Try and keep the senses going, the senses fresh as everyone continues to pile into this session. And we will get ready to get rolling once again. Could have completely different weather conditions. Could have dry till the end. Could have more rain till the end. Could have a quick shower at the beginning. Could start damp. We never know, especially with these variable conditions. But we will be back racing shortly, and we will just have to wait and see. That did not seem like the optimal pit exit. Straight on into the wall, but all power to them. To each their own. But another 30 seconds and we will be started racing. At least with another formation lap. Could consider it a safety car start. But we will be back and rolling shortly. And we are now back on the grid, and it doesn't seem to be any rain from here to the end. So I think we are going to be A-OK to bring this race home. Telecom back in the lead as Nat JB is just going to have to try and, you know, put the pressure onto Telecom, but Telecom has been the fastest driver on track. No one was able to take away the fastest lap of the race from Telecom the entire duration of the race prior to the red flag, prior to the rain. Once we got the rain, we would definitely not see any laps that would compare. So Telecom is definitely deserving of the pole position, definitely deserving of the lead. But I think everyone behind sees how dominant Telecom was at the beginning of that race and growing that gap, holding on to that lead so nicely, that trying to at least put a challenge for the lead early on today in this race is definitely going to be one of the top priorities for these drivers, especially for those drivers at the front row. Nat, Silth, Matt. Matt has a chance to reclaim down in P4, no longer on P2, but down to P4, does have a chance to try and reclaim a few positions here. As we are about 45 seconds away from engines fired. And we will be back racing within the next 3 minutes. Telecom will lead us off the line, and we will get back with another formation lap and go green flag next time they come around to the start-finish line. I think let's actually go on board with Telecom whenever he fires up this Ferrari 296, and also something with these changing conditions, it is possible with the shorter pit stops to go for a splash and dash pit stop. No tires, just hit fuel, have enough to finish this race and continue on. So it's just a stop no matter how you do it. And Telecom will lead us off the line. Once again dumping that clutch, but no real movement, no squirming of the tires, no trying to warm them up, no dragging the brakes to warm those up from Telecom. Just seems to be easy driving, smooth driving, preserving the tire life rather than trying to get some early temperature out of them. But we are back rolling once again, about to take the green flag and finish the remainder of this race, hopefully. But no rain currently in the forecast, as the rain all got blown away by windmills whenever that red flag came out, and the track is now dry. They brought the jet dryers out, the Air Titans. We are now back to sunny and dry. Blew the clouds away, dried the track, and we are now good to go, as we will see prime racing conditions, bright and sunny. The track is nice and warm. And we will get back racing here in Austria to finish the season opener of the XCLusive Pro Series. Still Telecom, just no real movement of the steering wheel during the formation lap, just holding steady, driving straight. Could just be dragging the brakes to try and generate temperature in that Ferrari, in those brakes at least of that Ferrari. Just a couple more corners to go. We do have the majority of the field back, this is a little bit of a second chance opportunity for some of the field. Granted, they are still going to be resuming in their original starting positions, but all with fresh cars, no damage, and all on the same strategy once again. Could definitely be an ability to reclaim some positions, or at least an opportunity to reclaim some positions. Telecom will take the green flag, will lead the field to the line, and Nat JB will try to push a counter to Telecom. It's whoever gets the better jump at the start, but I would put my money on Telecom. Very dominant pre-red flag, but as we get ready to go, green, 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 is Nat going to be able to respond starting? And those marbles will not give you all that much grip, but they are nearly 5 wide behind, as I think everyone has made it through a lot nicer. Don't really seem to be any incidents from the field behind. Telecom early up into the lead, or at least maintaining that lead. Telecom with Silt, but there is a massive incident back behind the majority of the field involved. The 777 of El Bambino. Who else is involved? And they are still crashing. Shumi involved, making contact, not with the Lexus, but one of the Mustangs. That was the Mustang of Thron McCooney, as we have had a big incident already. Who all has been involved? Alex MG, the Aston Martin, is around at turn 4. And it has not necessarily been a pretty start to this race. Nat JB back into P2, Sylph in P3, but Sylph very early on with a good run. May try it around the outside of the penultimate corner. They go side by side through. Ravi goes very wide, will try to rejoin, but there's not going to be too much space to do so. Finds some sort of space. Drops down a couple positions, is now racing alongside Skino. Telecom in the lead, but it is Sylph in P2. Nat JB goes to retake that position back. They don't make any contact. Nat JB got a poor start, now going to be under attack from the McLaren of Matt M. Andom up into P5. And Irish and Skino side by side up the hill into turn 3. The 999 of Alex MG around at the start-finish line again. Or around again at the start-finish line. Nat JB and Andom coming together. Andom up into P4. I think this is the exact thing that Andom needed to happen. Up into P4. Irish pushing hard, Skino pushing hard, Rathi down a few positions, and we have got a race on our hands. Albeit there was some unfortunate contact between a sizable amount of the field, but we have really closed everybody up back together. Also Ron Loco, a part-time XCL broadcaster. Make sure that you check out Ron Loco on Twitch. Find him in the Discord, and make sure that you tune into his broadcast whenever he is streaming. Matt M back into P3, but Telecom is just running away with it. Matt M in that McLaren. Maybe these are favored conditions or a second wind from that McLaren. Will try and close up the gap to Sylph. Andom takes the fastest lap, racing side by side with Nat JB through turn 1. The 17 of Hope Blue off the track into the wall. That definitely seems to be an issue. Krigmit, Radioactive, both into the pit lane. Telecom still leading. Sylph P2, Matt M P3, Andom P4. The battle for P5 between Nat JB and Skino. Nat JB now dropping down a few positions, was running P2 the majority of the race pre-red flag. But these red flag conditions have definitely thrown a wrench in the works of this race. Be it rain or red flag race restart, we have got a race on our hands once again. Rathy making contact with the number 4 Mustang of Irish, but Irish holds on to it, somehow manages to keep that Mustang in one piece, rejoins the track, albeit beside the super sweet BMWs, and will lose out on a few positions, but that could have been much, much worse than it was. They are elbows out, argy-bargy galore in this race, and Irish goes ahead and takes the separate pit strategy, comes in, does have the Lexus of Berserk Legends coming in behind. They will both come into the pits, and I think it's going to be an early stop, essentially stopping on the original race strategy, which could play into their hand as long as they are able to keep their noses clean and not get into any more trouble throughout the rest of this race, and of trying to find a way at least alongside the McLaren of Matt. And I think he has, and it looks like Andom up into P3 will find a way past the McLaren, and it is now going to be the McLaren of Andom up ahead. P3 currently. Skino trying to find a way to follow through. Nat JB will try to do the same, as Matt in that McLaren seemed like he was on the front foot, but is now dropping back in pace. Telecom wasted no time at all to open up that 6-second gap, 5.5 seconds currently. Silth with a 1.3 second gap to the next car in line in this lead pack. And riding along with Skino as this lead pack is starting to break away from the mid pack. Juvelainen leading the mid pack, trying to close up and break free of the grasp of Kai in the Stritzer Motorsport Mustang, but Rathy and Luke, Ferraris racing side by side, as Luke actually slots ahead of Rathy. Rathy dives to the outside to try and get the undercut through, nowhere to go with the extra momentum, and may actually fall victim to Ron Loco in the Mustang behind. Granted, that's if Ron Loco is not going to be attacked from OGFX in the BMW into turn 4. It does seem to be. OG will try it around the outside. They may have made a little bit of contact between each other there. And OG now alongside through 5 and 6. They will try to make it stick too wide through there. OGFX will have to go the long way around the outside, and that is also going to bring Mel in the BMW into the mix. Seeing a lot of understeer, seems to be off the track into the sand, 2 tires in the sand coming out of 8 there, and a mistake there could open up the door for an overtake. Tony Garona, I believe teammate with MSA Autosport to Silth. Not on the same MSA Autosport team, but still an MSA Autosport team. Mad Psycaster in a better position, but we have quite a few that have come into the pit lane. Irish in the pit lane, Aiden in the pit lane, Berserk Legends in the pit lane, Krigmick, Clorpt, Fazzy Binks, Radioactive, Uncleaner. The majority of the XCL field, I believe, decided that it is going to be the better opportunity to go ahead and get this pit stop out of the way, expecting no rain from here to the end, run it on one set of tires, and hope that you're in the right spot when this race comes to a close. Andom trying to fight for P2, as Andom is on an absolute hard charge early in this race. Wonder where he was pre-red flag, but is now looking to contest not necessarily the lead at this time, but looking to contest P2, and is definitely making up ground very quickly in doing so. I think not having to battle against Skino or Rathy is definitely allowing Andom here to pull away from the rest of the field. at least in terms of pace. Telecom still holds the fastest lap of the race, and there is some traffic sprinkled in ahead. But Andom trying to take this position for P2 away. Matt M with Nat JB in tow. They run up the hill for the right-hander of 3. Is Nat JB going to get the better exit? No, I think they're pretty even stead there. Rathy into the pit lane, and it does seem to be that that was a scheduled stop off the jacks and will not be the furthest ahead on that pit strategy. That's actually going to be Irish with Aiden in tow behind. Switzer Motorsports versus XCLusive Esports. That's a bit of a throwback to the 24-hour. As those two teams went at it for 24 hours straight. Telecom growing that gap 7 seconds now. As Sylph trying to claw back some pace against Andom, but Andom is up into P2. Skino P4, Matt M P5, and Nat JB with nowhere to go, trying to find a way past, but does not seem to be able to do so. Juvelainen creeping up on this two-car battle. Kai with Luke in tow. And Tony Garona, after being overtaken by both of those BMWs, is now trying to slice his way through, or back through both of them. Mad Psycaster in the Porsche in a bit of no man's land does have MCR 420 behind, who has been brought back onto the lead lap. Does have some damage on that Ferrari though. Ritz and Flitza back on the lead lap as well. And Tesaurus in the Ferrari with Turtle Team Racing, teammate to Nat JB, up in the top 5. Actually, Nat JB now in the top 6. And Alex MG just with the early issues. Slicing in between the already have pit and on a separate strategy Mustang and McLaren of Irish and Aiden. Up at the front, it is very, very loud as they are all racing here together, but I need to hop back here. OGFX1, I saw a lot of cars all together in one spot. Who is that into the pit lane? It is Kai diving into the pit lane and going along as essentially you would be pitting at this time anyway. Granted, we were running the full 90 minutes and we didn't have the rain. This is about the time that you would be pitting. But it seems to be a lot of these drivers wanting to just get the pit stop out of the way early and be in position to have the opportunistic position at the end of the race. Skino with, I believe, that is the 86. So that is going to be the Mustang of Thron McCooney. This is lap traffic that this lead pack is trying to make their way through. Lap traffic early because they have come into the pit lane. It does throw them on a different strategy, spit them out at a different part of the track. And Thron McCooney will be getting blue flags as Skino will be trying to find a way past, but this is all just playing into Andom's hand. Thron McCooney will now dive to the inside, allow Skino to go past, and will rejoin behind, as we do have the exchange of track position, but a battle at the back of the yet to pit pack between Tesaurus and Ninja. Both of these drivers also running in, or ran in the 24 hours at the Nordschleife earlier this season, earlier this year. There's a lot of use of bright green in these cars, regardless of whether it's a highlighter green, a lime green, or like a almost a lizard green on the, I guess you could call it turtle green on the Team Turtle or Turtle Team Racing Ferrari. But one mistake drops you back quite a few positions if you're battling up here for the lead. And breaking away from Skino. I think that may have been due to some help from the traffic car of Thron McCooney. But we have quite a dense field going back. Matt M with Sylph behind, and is that Thron McCooney up ahead getting waved the blue flags? Yes, it is. The number 30 Ford Mustang. As both Matt and Nat, Thron McCooney gets a drive-through penalty for track limits. That's definitely going to take him out of that fight. At least remove him from the track in doing so, and serving that penalty. But I wonder where he got the drive-through penalty for track limits. Somewhere that I have seen that a lot of the drivers may need to watch out for. You can get a warning coming out of turn 1, 3 warnings, and then the next incident that you, or the next infringement on the track limits and gaining an advantage you have, that will award you the drive-through penalty. And it is quite a long pit lane compared to the rest of the track here at the Red Bull Ring. That is going to be a very hurtful penalty that you do not want to have to deal with. Nat JB, is it an entry into the pit lane? Yes, it is. Pulling inside. Needs to be a clean stop. Pitting by himself. Will come in, but hard on the brakes before that pit limiter line. And Nat JB into the pit lane, and I believe this is going to be Thron McCooney serving the drive-through penalty. So Nat coming in for a stop. Thron looking like he was going to stop there. I think he may have, but you need to continue driving for a drive-through penalty. Drive-through is now cleared, and Nat with the splash and dash. I don't know exactly how many drivers have used the splash and dash, but Nat takes the splash and dash. And we'll see how that plays from here on out. And holding the gap. I think that may have actually been an exact repeat of the gap, 7.524 seconds between Andom and Telecom. Andom still unable to run a faster lap than Telecom, but we'll see if this gap is growing or shrinking. Skino and the Mercedes coming in the pit lane, that gap is growing slightly. Skino from P3 comes into the pit lane. What is the strategy call for Skino? Is it take tires? Is it splash and dash? No rain from here to the end. Is going to be nice and dry. Thank you for the windmills for blowing the rain away. In the pits, it's a bad stop though. That's not going to be good for Skino, especially with the tight margins between the drivers. But is it the splash and dash? No, it's going to be tires, I believe, on or in the pit lane for quite some time. And also MCR 420 in the pit lane. That may have been the splash and dash. It didn't quite seem long enough for tires. We'll just have to wait and see, and if you have any interest in the strategy they made, you may just need to throw that driver a message. You can join the XCL Discord. As there should be a chatbot timer. There is now if there wasn't. Telecom still leading, and I think that gap to Andom is now back to growing. Now over 8 seconds. Silth currently P3 as Nat JB has come in. And of the drivers that have pit, Nat JB is actually leading those drivers, and coming in so early could have been the play. Going past the number 86 of Thron McCooney is Ninja, after Ninja came in for that splash and dash. Or Nat JB. Ninja into the pit lane with some damage on that Ferrari, but coming in for a stop. Let's go ahead and ride on board with a lap with Telecom. Completely open track. If there is an opportunity to run the fastest lap of the race, it's going to be right here. 128.5 that last lap on the Race Logic V-Box. Very respectable times. A couple tenths off of the fastest times that we saw in qualifying, but we didn't see optimum conditions in qualifying. I believe we could have seen times down into the 27s. Andom behind. I don't think that we would really be able to see him, but coming through turn 4, just smooth input. And we should barely be able to see the Mustang of Andom. No, we will not. The number 200 of Krigmit, I think, may have had an off at turn 7. Those drivers who are deciding to stay in, stay out, Alex MG coming in. Go ahead and get that pit stop out of the way. As there have been some gaps started to develop with a lot of the field coming into the pit lane. Still, the leaders currently out yet to come into the pit lane. They do need to come in at some point. Is that Thesaurus coming in? No, that is Luke coming in, pitting from currently P6. And who has that, or who has gone off back there? The 30. That's the 30 of OGFX. Around at the final corner. UGC Luke just pulling in. Alex MG just came out of the pit lane. Ninja with Krigmit and Radioactive fighting for position behind. These are 3 positions up for grabs. They are all 3 on the same lap. I believe they're all 3. They should know. I don't think they're on the lead lap, as they have all pit. They are on a separate pit strategy. Still yet to see our leaders come in. And 26 minutes left in this race. And out on his own in no man's land, but unable to catch the leader, as Telecom has just put an absolute masterclass on. Mel comes into the pit lane, and I believe OGFX just behind also into the pit lane, as there are fewer and fewer drivers every lap still out on track. Nat JB leading those who have already pit. Nat JB came in, I believe, from P3 or P4. Took the splash and dash, no tires. We'll have to see how that strategy plays out towards the end of this race. Fresh tires at the end of the red flag session. Everyone got a fresh car, a fresh overhaul. So they were not dealing with old worn tires at that time. And Nat JB, you can definitely make a set of tires last 50 minutes, but they are not going to be anywhere near the peak conditions they were at the beginning of the race. Tony Garona chasing down Ron Loco, and Mad Psycaster also in that fight. I personally think those Mustangs sound very, very good, and I can tell you they sound very good in person. A lot of people complain about the sound of the Mustang in ACC, and I personally think it sounds pretty spot on to how it sounds real life. Rathy chasing down Luke with Skino in tow. This three-way battle for position beginning to form. As it looks to be Rathy on the front foot against Luke. Skino trying to just hold on to those two ahead. I would say the race has been going pretty good so far. Telecom, the leader, into the pit lane. And where will this put Telecom? Is it the splash and dash? See, it's just come into the pit lane. Off the jacks and rolling. Tony Garona coming in. That does score Andom the leader. I think Andom may try to stay out. Telecom will need a lap or so to warm those tires up. And Andom will try to regain some time. Will it be the reactionary stop this lap, or is Andom going to try and hang this out to the very end and see what kind of positions he can come up with? Very wide through 6 and almost had a big mistake, but Andom will lead a lap. Telecom, for the first time this entire race, will not lead a lap, or will not lead this lap. Telecom has led every single lap except for this one. And Andom will have a lap led here. 21 minutes left to go in this race. And we still have quite a few drivers left in the field to pit. Telecom back out and is scored as the highest ahead of those drivers that have come into the pit lane. Nat JB would be next in that number 42. And Nat JB is not far behind Telecom. Is by a little more than a couple corners. But for the most part, a very good running position for Nat JB with this splash and dash stop. And the Mustang once again wide at 6. And maybe those tires have seen better days. Maybe he's just trying to push too hard. Andem has got to put some crazy time in here. And Telecom came out in a great position. Did not really have any traffic to contend with. And I think that's going to be something that if Andem wants to have a shout at winning this race is going to have to be something to consider. When you come out of the pit lane, where are you going to be in traffic? It's very hard to determine that. Could have someone with the team trying to give a little bit of advice there. But you want to try and have it to where whenever you come out of the pit lane, you are going to be in clean air and not really dealing with too much traffic. Ritzenflitze comes into the pit lane in the BMW. Tesaurus still to come into the pit lane. Andem still to come in. Sylph, Matt M, Juvalainen, Ron Loco, Mad Sycaster, all yet to pit. Ron Loco and Mad Sycaster battling here as they make their way past one of the Switzer Motorsport Mustangs, the 777 of El Bambino. And into the pit lane, the current race leader, Andem. What is it going to be? It looked like he may need tires on that Mustang, but we will have to see. Could be the Splash and Dash. As the rest of the field will make their way through. Ron Loco, Mad Sycaster, and then El Bambino. As Sylph is going to lead this next lap, I believe, out of the pit lane for Andem. Don't want to go too hot coming out of the pit lane. Very easy to go into those guardrail walls. And a good exit for Andem. But not good enough for the lead. Andem is closer. Actually, I would say no, not necessarily. He's actually lost about a second to Telecom, and Telecom is in a perfect position that once this race is over to just come across the line and take the win. Everyone else ahead needs to come into the pit lane. Tesaurus yet to come in, Sylph yet to come in, Matt M yet to come in, Juvalainen yet to come in, Ron Loco still to come in, and Mad Sycaster. MCR 420 has stayed in. Mad Sycaster into the pit lane. It'll pull that Porsche in, stop, go on the jacks, and could be the Splash and Dash, could be tires. With experience driving the Porsches around here, or around anywhere really, you're going to want to have tires once you get past about that 30-minute mark, about halfway through this race. Those tires are going to want to be dead. Tesaurus comes into the pit lane. Telecom will once again, well, still not the leader, but should be the leader once everyone else comes into the pit lane. Sylph yet to come in, Juvalainen yet to come in, Matt M and Ron Loco, the 4 stragglers staying out. Silth will not come in yet. Juvalainen will not come in. Matt M does not. Will Ron Loco come in? Does have the 777 of El Bambino behind. And no, they will stay out. It's going to be a very late pit stop for them as we have less than 15 minutes left in this race. Car number 51, UGC Luke, stopped on track. Has the car stalled on him, or has he run out of fuel? Finally gets that started back up and rolling. Unsure of exactly what happened there, but that car was definitely off and had to sit there, and I think it tried to get it started back up. The 999 Alex MG gets a drive-through penalty for track limits. We'll have to come into the pit lane to serve that. Kai in the Schwitzer Motorsport Mustang closing up to Mad Sycaster in the Porsche. Mad Sycaster just holding on to that position for now. Actually opening up a nice gap to Kai at corner exit. Porsche very good with the acceleration. That Mustang with that top end speed was able to close that gap by the time they got to the downhill of turn 4. Telecom trying to close up to the drivers ahead, as he is well within range to retake this lead once those drivers come into the pit lane. In contact there between Berserk Legends and I think the McLaren of Radioactive. They are trying to fight for positions here. Alex MG clears the drive-through penalty. Side by side into the final corner. That's almost never going to work. And Radioactive is caught out in that one. Radioactive will go down in positions, and I think Race Control may be looking at that incident. Tony Garona with Berserk Legends behind. Uncleaner Cross, Tesaurus, and Luke. Luke very quick, but I don't know exactly what happened. And Tesaurus all sorts of out of shape on the curbs. Just barely managed to hold on to that Ferrari. Keep it braking in a straight line. Kai still trying to find a way past the Porsche of Mad Sycaster, but no dice yet. Ritz and Flitza closing up in one of the sister Schwitzer cars, but not a Mustang. The Schwitzer BMW. Still awaiting the leaders to come into the pit lane, and they are running out of time to do so, but they don't have any reason to. They don't have any reason to. Berserk Legends leading Uncleaner Cross, UGC Luke, who has now gone past Tesaurus. Alex MG back into the pit lane. I'm unsure of exactly what that is. Maybe not enough fuel in the car. Silth doesn't come in yet. Juvalainen doesn't come in yet. Matt M doesn't come in yet. What about Ron Loco? Still no stop, as they are getting dangerously close to the end of this race. They may come in for a splash and dash right at the end. They may have overloaded the car and put in enough to go an hour. They are going to try and come up with whatever they can at the end of this race, but they are only going to be able to outrun Telecom for so long, as I think they will lose the positions whenever they come in to serve the pit stop. They may come out, they may very well come out within the top 10. Would just need to defend once they come out of the pit lane. This battle getting very congested between Berserk, Uncleaner, Luke, and Thesaurus. A battle up ahead between Tony Corona and Ninja. Ninja goes through. Does Tony Corona get the better exit, though? And they will be side by side running up into turn 3. I think Tony is going to have the advantage here. Ninja will try it around the outside, does get as good of a run around the outside as you possibly could, but unable to hold on to it. As Tony Corona will take that position back. Silth still leading. Nowhere to really go once they come into the pit lane. Juvelainen is closing in. Matt M is closing in. Telecom is closing in. Telecom and the number 296 just coming out of turn 3 as these guys are coming into turn 6. And unless they can splash and dash and get out quick, their tires are going to be very old. But they are running out of time to get these stops out of the way. Still Silth leading laps. No pit lane entry yet. They must be waiting till the absolute last moment to come into the pit lane and get this stop out of the way. Silth, Juvelainen, Matt M, Ron Loco. All together. Running, trying to see what they can do as the looming threat of Telecom retaking the lead is still on the table. OGFX and Clort coming together here through turns 6 and 7. I think OGFX trying to get a run on Clort, but we'll just have to wait and see. Tony Corona back ahead of Ninja, who has gone off at turn 8. That's definitely going to open that gap up. Side by side behind between Uncleaner and Thesaurus. Will Thesaurus have a run into the final corner, try and get set up on a more opportune line? Thesaurus could look for a good run out of the final corner. Will not get anything there. Under 7 minutes left of this race, about 4 laps, I believe. 4 or 5 more laps. I think 5 more laps. Silth, Juvelainen, and Matt M, and Ron Loco still yet to pit. And they've got to be close on fuel. They'll just come in, put enough in to finish the race, no more, as they can't really afford the time to do so. And whatever position they get is the position they get. A bit of oversteer from Kai through turn 8, the rear of that Mustang stepping out. We could be looking at the effects of tire wear. Uncleaner trying to find window of opportunity to get past the Lexus of Berserk, but Berserk is defending. Don't really see too many Lexus racing, so always good to see one. And Berserk just making that Lexus very wide. Who is that coming back in? This Radioactive. Radioactive ended up going around, I believe, but is closed back up onto this fight and is still within a shout of getting one of these positions. The leaders closing up to the gap, or closing up the gap to the battle that we were just on board with. Skino and Wrath battling again. They are all on their lonesome. Skino looks to be on a good run, front foot forward, to close this gap up to the Ferrari ahead. Still yet to see our leaders come in, as they only have a couple more laps to come in and do so. They can't come in on the final lap. It would be way too late then. Skino trying to find a better run past Wrath. Don't know exactly what tires these drivers are on. Skino may have taken tires. Silth into the pit lane. Does anyone follow? Matt M does not. Ron Loco may. Juvelainen does not. Juvelainen will lead a lap. Silth into the pit lane, not wanting to wait any longer. Will come in. I believe it'll be the splash and dash. No reason to really take tires with this short of a race left to go. It will be 3 laps left. And Juvelainen, Matt M, and Ron Loco still need to pit. Are they running slower laps? Or are they running faster laps to Telecom? Because it doesn't really seem that Telecom is really catching them. Silth is out back on track. And where does Silth come out? Just ahead of the NLR Esports Mustang of Andom. And Silth has played that strategy perfectly and is slotted in P2. Is going to be on much older tires and may not necessarily have the pace to compete against Andom. But Silth, playing the strategy perfectly, comes out ahead of the second place car, at least in terms of strategy. And Silth may have just put himself on the podium by doing that. Juvelainen comes in. It's got to be a perfect stop. Late on the brakes. Matt M also comes in. Does Ron Loco come in? Yes, Ron Loco will come in. We will have everyone into the pit lane. Now we'll see how this strategy really developed for them, and I don't think it did develop for them. Telecom comes out. Juvelainen is off the jacks, but it's a slow rolling start. Telecom will resume the lead. And we've got a race out of the pit lane here. As they're side by side, there's not really room for both of you at the pit lane. Juvelainen slots in ahead of Matt M. And they will come out. They'll be in the top 10, but they won't be in the position Silth was in. Ron Loco now coming out, but Silth still holding on to P2. No one really in contention for the lead, as Telecom will take the white flag at the end of this race, or at the end of this lap to end this race. Silth and they both look to be the top contenders for the podium, so long as Silth can keep it together and bring home lap, clean. Telecom setting wide into the penultimate corner and running through the final corner. Spit out onto the pit straight for one final time. 23 seconds left to go. This is the final lap of the race. Telecom is in the lead. Silth currently in P2, Andem in P3. And Silth, I believe, played that strategy perfectly. Juvalainen ended up coming out P5, Matt M P6. And staying out seemed to be a viable strategy for position. Aiden, big slide coming through turn one. And everyone is going to be on the final lap. But Telecom has put on an absolutely dominant performance here at the Red Bull Ring. Between the conditions, between the red flag, between the pit strategy, all of it has not faltered. Just a few corners left to go. Telecom will run out of turn 8 into turn 9, the penultimate corner. And out of the final corner, SRE Telecom with Sim Race Evo takes the win in the season opener at Red Bull Ring. An absolute masterclass all the way through. Silth with the late pit strategy comes and takes home P2. Andem P3, Nat JB P4, Juvalainen will bring home P5, Matt M will bring home P5, Juvalainen P6, Irish P7, Aiden P8, Rathy P9, and Skino will take home P10, Ron Loco P11. Mad Psycaster with Ritson Flitza P12 and 13, Kai P14, Mel P15, Fazzy Binks P16, OGFX P17. Klorpta will not. Krigmet takes home P18, Klorpta P19, Tony Garona P20, Ninja will bring home P21. Berserk P22 with Unclean P23, Radioactive P24, Tesaurus P25, and Luke will be the last across the line. Bring home P26. But Telecom, your winner with Sim Race Evo, taking the win in the season opener, race 1 of the XCLusive Pro Series with the Xbox Community League. Thank you all for tuning in today. I may be broadcasting the next round of this championship. I may not, but regardless, 8 rounds of this championship, a lot of action, and qualifying by itself could have been an entire event with as close as it was. But that is going to bring it into this race today. Telecom took home the win. Silth GB with MSA Autosport Team 2 takes home P2. And Andem with NLR Esports takes home P3. That is your podium. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to go ahead and give somebody a raid, as I like to do at the end of my streams. That will bring an end to this race. And I will see you all next week. Or actually not next week, it may be 2 weeks for the next round of the XCL XCLusive Pro Series Championship. We're just going to go ahead and raid somebody, and then we will be done. So thank you all for tuning in. If you are not following, please consider following on Twitch. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. The permanent VOD for the stream will be on the YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe there, and we will be done here tonight. Thank you all, and have a good night or the good rest of your day.